But it will be interesting to see how we navigate this time without Salah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I do think, it's great that Jota is back in a real way and that he's earning his minutes back after injury and that he is just man, that dude is a sniper.
Like the runs he makes, the spaces he creates, the way he drags defenders out of position, his pressing, especially this season, it's all been really good. It's just like there's that last little piece of the puzzle that if that clicks into place, he could be a legit world-class talent.
Yeah, it's just whether or not that ever happens.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I hope it does because it's he's obviously very expensive. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to American LFC. I am Nate, and we're talking with my brother Eli. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, really well. Super excited to be back talking about Liverpool Football Club after a holiday break and an FA Cup win. How you feeling?
Good. I mean, we were off for a while, but I think that it was all wins while we were on our holiday hiatus, so maybe we should just stop altogether and Liverpool will keep winning, but, who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Whenever we stop talking, they keep winning.
They keep winning, yeah.
In fairness, we've only lost one game this season, and that was an absolute conundrum and a disaster class by the PGMOL.
Too soon.
And we've already hashed it out. So
Too soon.
Yeah, so it's been a while. There have been a lot of games, but the most important is the most recent, and that's how football is. And it was the 5th round FA Cup against Arsenal at the Emirates this past weekend, and a tale of two halves, I think. Personally, what was your take on it?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it certainly seemed that it's mentality monsters 2.0, right? Like, I don't want to get too far ahead, but yeah, it does seem like there was some of that earlier season sluggishness getting going. There were a lot of changes, we've got players out now on international duty. Soboslai is out with a bum hammy for another couple weeks. So there were some changes, but it also speaks to the depth of the squad that Klopp has been able to build in the last year, that we weren't really that far off the pace at any point against the team in second place in the league, with having Van Dijk out sick, Soboslai is injured, Salah is at AFCON, Indo is at the Asia Cup. We still
Joel
kept
Matip
with him.
did his ACL.
Joel's out for the season. So
Andy Robertson, shoulder dislocated. Simicas, collarbone broken. I mean, we do. Thiago Alcantara hasn't kicked a ball for the entire season.
I still don't know who you're talking about when you say that name.
Yeah, Stefan by Cecic, who is an incredible talent, also hasn't kicked. Has played 8 minutes maybe for us. It's interesting because. Not to go on a tangent here, but because we were talking about it, and it's sort of about how he lined up, man, it seems like everybody's fans, bar City, are really complaining about their injury issues. Like, you follow any United people, they're like, oh, we've got injuries. It's like Arsenal's talking about, oh, we've got injuries.
That's all anyone talks about when Newcastle plays.
Yeah. Injuries. It's like, everybody's always got injuries.
Yeah.
Like, the number of games that all of the teams are playing is irresponsible, and people are getting injured constantly. And it's so funny that it's whenever we have there's Van Dijk did his ACL on the season that we tried to retain our championship, and all the pundits had to say was it was the worst returning championship performance in the history of the Premier League, right? You know what I mean? It's
right.
that's all they're basically Liverpool's awful. And it's well, we didn't have the excuse for injuries then. Why do people have the excuse? Why does United have the excuse for injuries now? They're just awful. They're just a mid-table team. That's the thing.
Yeah,
anyway, sorry, that was a tangent.
Well, I mean, just to kind of piggyback on that, because Dad came over and watched one of the games during the break, and Jim Beglin was announcing again, And I made the comment, I said, for a former Liverpool player, his commentary about our club is absolute crap. Because I remember when Liverpool and Newcastle played the first game against each other this season, the whole Van Dijk mess, Captain Chaos saving it at the end.
Yeah.
And I even think I texted you during the game, it was like, when United were ahead, this was a signpost game for their season. And, this is going to put Newcastle United on the road to being top 4 and another great squad. And then by the end of the game, Liverpool had, come back, end up winning the game. And it was like, oh, it's a long season, this doesn't mean anything. And it's just like, I don't understand the kind of the commentary, I guess, tone around like Liverpool Football Club right now. It's like we've established ourselves as one of the best clubs in the land again, consistently. And it's like they don't get the credit that they're due.
Well, I think part of it is like I'm sort of okay with it because I think it still helps Klopp with his narrative as far as like us against them. You know what I mean? That was the thing that Fergie was always really great at.
Yeah.
So it's like I think that's part of what Klopp does too, which is like, well, they're always just like minimizing or just saying that Liverpool's not that good. And I think it just helps us when it's just like, okay, well, we'll just keep – like, for example, it's like now they're just starting to finally say this. Like, wait a second, is Liverpool back?
Right.
And the thing is, like, the thing that's really humorous to me about all that stuff is that it's like – so last year, like, there's this huge discussion in the United world, right? Because everybody's talking about Ten Hag and how he's performing and about how they're not doing very well, right? And about how last year, apparently Ten Hag has come out and said that last year they overperformed, right? They won a League Cup or something like that and finished like third, right? So that was a great season for them, and the pundits were saying they're like, oh, they're back, they're on the way to the great, and all that sort of stuff. And Liverpool finished 5th. It was the worst season that we've had under the tenure of Jurgen Klopp for 8 seasons. And I'm gonna look it up right now.
Well,
sure.
The other thing that's absolutely delusional is that United fans are saying that Rashford deserved the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah. No. Agree. I mean, that's sort of part of the thing, too. But I just want to make sure that I get the facts here correct. And that's exactly right. We finished, 4 points behind 4th place? We finished 8 points behind United, I guess? Is that right? Okay. That's more than I was thinking it was. All right. We finished 8 points behind United. All right. So that's not nothing. I was thinking it was just a couple points, but it's funny because it's like that's their best season in a decade. It's our worst season in a decade, and we're less than 3 games behind them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, this is a revolution. So that it's just part of the narrative that the pundits have. I mean, having Gary Neville and Roy Keane on every freaking broadcast doesn't help.
Yeah.
I mean, but people could say the same thing about Carragher, and it's like the truth is like I don't always agree with Carragher's takes either. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, back to the FA Cup.
Yeah, back to the FA Cup game.
Arsenal is also
1 win in 7 games for them. I was spending some time on their subreddit this weekend, and the Schadenfreude is just delicious.
It's super interesting because I do think that they have a good squad. They have like a good team.
And I think Arteta's a good manager. I mean, it pains me to say it, but I think he's a great manager. He's
great or
well,
good?
Okay, good.
I think he's a good manager as well, and I think he's getting his ideas across, and I think that he's building a culture at the club that hasn't been there in a really long time.
Right.
And I think that they have an upward of all teams. I think they have an upward trajectory. The truth is that they're just soft. That's the honest truth.
They really are.
Right?
Yeah.
They're not gonna, like, an Arsenal fan's not gonna actually take that on board and be like, oh no, like, come on. The truth is that they haven't been performing as well as the table suggested. Like, there were plenty of times where it's like, who was it they were playing against? Luton, and they got a goal in a Declan Rice header on the last corner kick in the 94th minute or something like that to actually end up winning the game. They could have dropped points. They had like 3 or 4 results similar to that.
And I think they also had, I mean, we could look up the difficulty table, but I think they had a fairly easy start to the season too.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's just like I think that I think they're still a really young team. I think that they're building to become quote unquote mentality monsters, but I just don't think that they have it.
They don't have all the right pieces yet, you know, and. Part of me is like, man, I hope he doesn't get the time and they just fall apart and he gets the boot, because that could be good for us. But I think, you know, if he gets the pieces he wants, you know, over the next couple of years, they could be more of a problem than they are right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all works out, because actually watching his post-match press conference, I was like, you're kind of whinging a little bit. Like, he's kind of being a baby about it. Which I know that is like,
he's kind of a baby about everything, right?
I know, but that's like not necessarily a super like motivating or endearing quality in a manager.
Right.
So it's like when you're like on the mat, like I would rather someone be just furious,
bullish, and come out fighting.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how they deal with this blip, right? Like like it's a 7-game. Road bump for them, right?
Yeah.
And they are getting to a point in their season where they can like make a decision, which is like, are we going to power through this and use this as like we're like in the foxhole together type situation, or is this something that divides them?
Yeah, and they just fall apart. Yeah, it will be interesting to see. But I guess back to the team that we're here to talk about. I honestly thought performances across the board were pretty darn good. I don't remember seeing too many players put a foot wrong too many times. It seemed like McAllister was a little rusty, and again,
he played in a series of games.
You know, he'd been out for a while. He gave the ball away a couple times. I
remember Gomez giving a couple balls away.
Yeah, Gomez gave one away that led to a chance. But again, like the Konate-Kwanzaa partnership, clean sheet. You know, limited shots on target. That's a promising thing right there.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know what I would say about the first half, though? And I saw Klopp come out and say this openly, which is like, Arsenal outplayed us in the first half, right? They played better football than us. Klopp mentioned that having Havertz and having Odegaard play basically double pivot 10s caught us off guard, and that we weren't able to adjust very well in game management and deal with that, because they had quite a lot of they had possession and they had a lot of shots, not on target.
Yeah,
but they had a lot of shots.
Again, luckily Kai Havertz is a joke.
Well, that's sort of part of their problem, is like if they could actually get somebody who finishes shots, they could actually be doing really well. If they buy somebody in January who can put the ball in the back of the net, they might actually be something to be concerned about.
Yeah.
You know? But I think an objective football viewer would say that they outplayed us in the first half. But luckily for us, the game is 2 halves. And one of the reasons why Jurgen Klopp is a generational talent of a manager is the fact that he could see the things that were happening. They adjusted coming out of the second half, and I mean, I wasn't concerned at all in the second half. Like, I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of threat anymore. I know that it's like in the first half, Odegaard hit the crossbar, especially in the first 5 minutes. They had a couple opportunities, like Konate, like they had that slicing long ball through the middle, and Konate just was like slow for some reason. I don't know what he was thinking, that Trent had it covered.
I don't know if he lost the flight of the ball or what happened, but yeah, it seemed like he was just kind of lollygagging getting back, and it.
Yeah, and he sort of like kind of did like a on the ground like stretch thing, so it was like, oh god, does he have a muscle injury?
Yeah.
But he ended up playing the rest of the game, so apparently not. But like once we kind of got through those little blips, it seemed like they had pressure, but it wasn't perilous. And I think that that's something to really take away from the performance in the first half, which is that it was like they had opportunities, they had shots, but there weren't a ton of times that I was just like, get it out, guys. What's going on? Like,
well, I would be interested to know how many minutes that midfield has played together so far this season of Elliott, McAllister, and Jones, you know. So you got, what, a 19, 20-year-old and two 23-year-olds? One which I think playing
Mac
out of position.
Is a little bit older than
24
that.
maybe. But still, you know.
Yeah. And he's coming back from injury.
Yeah.
It was his first game back. He played 60 minutes,
yeah.
you know. But I will say, is like, once we sort of got into the second half, he readjusted.
He was putting in good tackles, breaking up play, made a couple interceptions that were pretty good. I thought, you know, again, it's one of those things that, you know, Klopp knows what he's talking about when he's putting these players where he's putting them, you know, so.
Oh, absolutely. The second half, it did really feel like it was sort of night and day, you know, because I was like, oh, second half they came out and they sort of like, I was like, oh yeah, we're on it from right away. There was like, I think it was like something that happened in the 47th, 48th minute. Nunez had like an opportunity that I was like, oh, we're on it here. We're on the front foot, and I was like, oh yeah, something's gonna happen, and I think all the changes that he did were really smart.
That's the one thing I want to highlight quick is it feels like he has learned his lesson from previous seasons, and his substitutions and on-field tactical changes with putting players in different positions has been probably the biggest game changer so far this season. You know, and the great thing was we were able to bring two kids on and put Trent in the 6, where, you know, that's when things really started to click.
Yeah, I think that's actually maybe one of the reasons why Arteta was a little bit prickly after the game, right? Because I think in his conference, his belief is that they outplayed us well enough in the first maybe 20, 25 minutes of the game that they should have put it to bed. But the truth is, if you look at the lineups, Arsenal put out a really strong side, and we put out our third and fourth, maybe fifth choice center back, our second choice right back playing left back, a 19-year-old midfielder, a 22-year-old midfielder. You know, I mean, like McAllister would be in our starting 11. In our strongest 11. We're without Salah, we're without Van Dijk. And we brought on two kids at the 60th minute who were like legitimately 18 years old.
Mm-hmm. Who both, I thought, had good performances.
Absolutely great.
You know?
Bradley was great. I thought they did really well. And then he even brought a younger kid on, I think, at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, so we were playing a very young, injured, riddled team, and we beat Arsenal 2-0 at the Emirates in the FA Cup, the cup that is the only thing that they can win.
Yeah.
So, good day at the office, I'd say.
Yeah.
Any sort of takeaways at all from people's performances, tactical stuff? I noticed it was really interesting that when they brought Jota on, they sort of switched Diaz and Nunez, and that seemed like to really cause quite a lot of problems.
I saw some commentary that was basically saying, well, we have our Salah stand-in now, and it's going to be Lucho Diaz, because he was amazing down that right wing. Just great. I mean, I don't want to beat Darwin up too much, but again, it's like, man, if you could just do the simple things and put the ball in the back of the net with greater frequency. I mean, there's much more to his play than just being a finishing goal scorer, right? Like, the runs he makes, the spaces he creates, the way he drags defenders out of position, his pressing, especially this season, it's all been really good. It's just like there's that last little piece of the puzzle that if that clicks into place, he could be a legit like world-class talent.
Yeah. It's just whether or not that ever happens.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I hope it does, because it's like he's obviously very expensive. He's obviously clearly very talented. And it would be helpful if he puts the ball in the back of the net more.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting to see how we navigate this time without Salah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I do think, like, man, like, it's great that Jota is back in a real way, and that he's earning his minutes back after injury, and that he is just like, man, that dude is a sniper.
Yeah,
that dude,
yeah.
Like, legitimately, like, should he be starting over Nunez? Maybe.
Maybe.
Like, but the thing that's tough is that he comes on and he affects games really well. Like, you can see that it's like he's watching the games in a way that he's like, I know how I'm going to debilitate this defense when I come on in the 60th
right.
minute.
And it's nice to have those decisions to make, right? You know, it's a multi-dimensional, you know, threat that you can present at any point in the game, you know.
Yeah.
Hopefully they all stay healthy and we can continue to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Oh, God, I hope so. Yeah.
Because the games are going to start stacking up here in the next couple months.
Yeah, I mean, I think January slows down a little bit for us, right? You know, the little post-holiday season breather. When's the next game?
Fulham Wednesday in the Carabao Cup.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. But then after that, we have 11 days off.
Okay, well, that'll be good.
So, yeah, so...
Some good recovery sessions.
Hey, maybe Thiago Alcantara will be available.
Who?
Then, you know? Yeah. The Spanish wonderkin.
Yeah, the guy that's won everything everywhere he's been.
Wonderkin, yeah. Okay, so you had some stuff on your... Is there anything else that you want to say about this Arsenal game?
No, I don't think so.
There were a couple other things that you wanted to talk about in your agenda.
Well, I think there is one thing. I don't even know if I want to mention it because I feel like we have talked about refereeing every podcast because it's just been such a circus. At least this time it wasn't VAR. It was the fact that the referee refused to card Arsenal players for almost anything. Odegaard should have had 2 yellow cards for dissent. Ben White should have gotten a yellow card for pushing Curtis Jones to the ground. And then there was another one that an Arsenal player just absolutely lost it at the ref and didn't get a yellow card. And then Harvey Elliott like mumbles something under his breath and looks at the ref, clear yellow. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, I it's interesting. I didn't notice it during the game.
Oh, you didn't?
Why are they getting... No, I was like, oh, okay, whatever.
I was bemoaning it quite heavily.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we ended up with the win. We got.
It doesn't matter. So
we got the 0 points, so it's all good.
So anyway, on to the next thing then.
Yeah.
The rumor that refuses to die in these times is this French kid named Kylian Mbappe coming to Liverpool. Thoughts?
It'll never happen. Not in a million years. And there's two things about this. I don't want it to happen, personally, because I don't really like him, like as a person or as a player. It would be naive to say that he's not one of, if not arguably, the best player on the planet, because he is, right? And there's a very reasonable argument that level-headed people would be like, if you have the opportunity to sign the best player on the planet, you do it. And that may be true, but it feels to me like Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp has always been about the team and not individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And Kylian Mbappe is only an individual. He cries like a baby when he got he had the big fallout with Thomas Tuchel when Tuchel was at PSG because he took him out of a game because he needed to substitute him to watch his minutes for other upcoming games, and Mbappe was a baby about it, and I personally don't really like how he navigated the renegotiating of his contract but using Real Madrid as leverage. I personally think that's what's happening to us. I don't think Kylian Mbappe has any intention to coming to the Premier League or coming to Liverpool Football Club. He wants to go to Real Madrid, and he already burned their bridge. And he's either trying to use LFC to leverage a bigger contract out of PSG once again, or they're trying to figure out how to float that so that it doesn't seem like he's trying to get in bed with Real Madrid again. Because Real Madrid fans will probably be super annoyed about it because he clowned them 2 years ago. And so my feeling is that it won't happen. It's a joke that people are even talking about it for a plethora of reasons, wage structure and all that sort of stuff. And I would accept him at the team because he's again the best player on the planet. He scored a hat trick in the World Cup final in like 9 minutes. He's incredible, but he's a toad.
Yeah, my I guess two main things are he's not a Klopp player because he refuses to play defense.
Right.
And he doesn't play on the right side.
Right, exactly.
I mean, and I think I texted you when this first started, like, really getting annoying was I don't think his disruption to the team chemistry is worth his output on the field.
I agree.
Because Klopp is looking for the kind of guy that will run through a wall, run himself into the ground for his team. And then Kylian Mbappe threw a fit about having to play defense.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't think it will ever happen.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think we want him.
You know, I don't. I wouldn't. I would say send him to United. He's a United signing because it's a marketing thing.
Yeah. But that's why he'll go to Madrid.
Yeah. He'll be one of the Galacticos.
Either that or he'll stay at PSG and he'll be the next Neymar. He'll be the most talented upcoming player with the most potential who squanders it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what does Neymar have to show? He won a Champions League when he was 19 with Barcelona off of the back of Messi and Suarez. Great. Good for you, dude.
Yeah. I mean, he's won the French League a bunch of times, but...
cool.
Yeah, well, hey.
You know what I mean? It's like,
made it to a Champions League, semifinal with PSG? I don't know.
Yeah, does that... Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Just
but like,
devil's avocado.
Yeah, I mean, he's made an insane amount of money.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's the thing. Is like, but no serious football fan... I can't take anybody seriously that would be like, Neymar is the best. Neymar is the second coming. Like, Neymar, like I would be like, he's like 28, 29 now.
Yeah, he's past it.
He was good. He was good 10 years ago as an upcoming talent with then Messi was in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He was like 25, 26, 27. Like, really good. So, and Suarez was also on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just coming off of Liverpool, going to Barcelona. It's like, yeah, they were incredible.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, anyway, I here's what I think will happen. Honest truth. I think he'll stay at PSG.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll stay at PSG, and I think that Real Madrid will take the money that they had set aside to figure out how to do Mbappe, and they'll do Erling Haaland next summer.
Yeah.
And they'll win another Champions League or 2 or 3. Because they'll have a midfield or left back of Camavinga, Jude Bellingham, and Tchouaméni, and Erling Haaland, and Vinicius Jr. And it was just like, wow.
Yeah.
But the great thing about football is any team can be beaten on any day.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think there was one more thing that you wanted to talk about, right?
I did say I was scanning transfer rumors yesterday, and I have to correct the record between me and you that Ignacio's release clause is like 60 million euros. I thought I must have been thinking somebody else that their release clause went up, but
yeah, no, his did go up. He was available this summer for like 40 million euros with a release clause, and then the summer passed, and once the season started, it upped to 60 million euros. So it's sort of like, ugh.
Yeah.
It is a stinker because,
I mean, obviously, they prioritize the midfield rebuild, which, seems to have been the smart thing to do. With the knowledge that they could probably go for him in January and afford to pay the extra money.
Yeah, I agree. If we end up doing it, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Joe Gomez, I thought, had a great game. I mean, besides that one sort of giveaway, I thought he had a great game.
Yeah, he did.
He's coming into his own. I think it's great. I've finally seen him on the left side, which I've been wanting to see this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing well. It's like, yay, great. He doesn't have to be bombing down the wing and be left-footed. He just needs to play defense.
Yeah.
Because Trent is pushing into the middle. We need more solidity versus our left back going missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. I see a lot of people saying that it doesn't make sense to go for Ignacio because we have Van Dijk, who is a left-sided center back, and that are we going to spend $60 million for a backup for Van Dijk? But I think that if we do go for Ignacio, it's going to be him playing left back.
Yeah, it's kind of is how Pep has used Guardiola at City this season.
Yeah, exactly, or Ake. Yeah. So have you seen anything? I haven't seen much else besides the fact that it's like, oh, he's available with a release clause, buyout. It seems to me that it was like if it was something that was a concern, I think that and he was the right player, that they would have just pulled the trigger.
Yeah, it would have happened last week or whatever.
It makes me feel like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I just don't feel like we're going to get anybody.
Yeah.
It's just following the history of the way that the club has worked with Klopp.
Yeah.
Look, last January, we desperately needed a midfielder. Any kind of midfielder. A midfielder that could play defensive midfielder, a midfielder that could play an 8, a midfielder that could play a 10. We needed all of those, and we didn't get one. We got Cody Gakpo, who ends up playing a false 9. So it's like they have a list of people that they need and want for the future and the building of the structure of this team. And if one of those people come available, they will act. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a left-sided center back. It's just going to be the person that they see as an opportunity and as a money buy, right? Yeah. I personally feel that the acquisition of Gakpo was really helpful to us last year in a really, really down and really, really bad season. He was an injection of positivity. You could see that he was a really great player, and he kind of, I feel like he helped us either psychologically or actually statistically helped us get out of a couple pinches. And the January before that, we got Lucho Diaz, and he literally changed the entire face of the team. So I am hopeful. The last couple of January transfer windows have been very positive for us after the Ozan Kabak, Ben Davies debacle.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my fingers crossed, but I don't have much hope that we're actually going to sign anybody.
Yeah.
Too bad Timo Werner's going to Tottenham Hotspur. Remember when we tried to get him?
I saw Tottenham fans were all excited because they're like, oh, it's another Chelsea cast-off that's going to come back to the Premier League and light the world on fire like De Bruyne and Salah did.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. Maybe. It could be possible. Who did we end up getting instead of him? That I was like, oh, God, why did we get this guy? I was really, really excited to get, because we were obviously very, very linked with Timo Werner for a very, very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like we were going to do it, and then all of a sudden we clearly lost interest, and then Chelsea was like, we'll take Liverpool's cast-offs. There was a reason why. Obviously, there was like some sort of conversation between him and Klopp was like, no, not for me.
Yeah.
But he looked incredible. Like when he was playing for Leipzig the first time, and it was like, oh, this is exactly what he presses from the front. He's lightning quick, like makes a lot of sense. And man, I just have great empathy for anybody that decides to go to Chelsea because they're dumb.
Yeah.
Like Chelsea is just a madhouse, and there's just no structure. Like legitimately, I think that since like Mourinho's second tenure and like John Terry have gone, there's like not enough solidity in the culture of the club to actually make anything make sense. And that the fact that they won the Champions League against Man City like 3 years ago was like, they were a really good team, but they still holdovers from previous clubs. And
yeah.
You know, I'm not sure that they were just like the best team, but they won.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I just feel bad for people that are going to Chelsea right now because it's like, why? And previously. So it's like maybe there is a chance that Timo Werner comes back and lights the world on fire. That would be such great, hilarious revenge.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they'll knock Arsenal out of the top four.
Yeah.
Because Villa's up there.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned like maybe wrapping this thing up with. I know that I was being negative that we weren't going to get anybody, but I think you had mentioned maybe wrapping it up with what if wish list. If we could get something, what would you do? What would you do if you could? And give names. What would you do?
You know, honestly, I don't know. I think for me, a left-sided center back, probably Ignacio, is the priority. Another one I saw was they were linked again with Kefram Turan. But it's like Indo has really stepped it up. I mean,
he's not a long-term solution.
He isn't, though, right? So it could be beneficial to have Turan come in and spend some time with a guy like Indo that is a seasoned professional. You know, I think those two would be huge because it's kind of like we've got to, you know, the kind of the engine room of a Klopp team is the spine, right? You know, whether it's moving it between the center backs, pressing, playing a high line, or depending on a deep lying midfielder that's also kind of a playmaker. You know, that spine is really important. So I think bringing people in when it's not an emergency, where they can spend time training and they don't have to get thrown into the deep end right away, where they can learn their craft. Because, you know, I just finished the Shankly biography, and they were talking about how even top-tier players would come in and spend months in the reserves learning the Liverpool way.
Right.
You know, because how long was it before Fabinho ever got a start? 3-4 months?
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months. It was half a season.
Same with Robertson.
Yeah.
I think, oh man, I didn't realize that we had been linked with Kefren Turam again. I would be elated to get him. I was bummed when we didn't go for him. I think Gravenberch was a really smart signing. I can't believe that Bayern let him go, especially for 25 million euros. So I'm super glad that we got him. I understood that it was like, man, you can't sign 5 midfielders in one transfer window. That would be wild.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that if we were able to, here's why I don't think that we'll get Kefren Turam is because I think it is a impediment to Stefan Bajcetic's
Development
growth.
Yeah.
Unless they legitimately think that that's not going to be a future option, or if they just think that unless they really want to slow play him, right? And then he gets minutes here and there, he gets minutes there.
I had seen something kind of Klopp was alluding to that was that, like, look, these are still growing boys. You know, their bodies are still developing, and we have to give them time to kind of like settle into physiologically who they're going to be.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, I will say that if Kefren Thuram comes in as a replacement for Thiago, then I was like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because he's leaving, so we are losing a midfielder, right? And we're down. So Bajcetic and Thiago are both deep line playmaking sixes, which Kefren Thuram has been said to be an 8 who can also play a 6. So it does make sense to me if there is an argument for that. I think it would be incredible. Like, obviously, highlight reels are highlight reels, but like just the fact that the dude is 6'4", he's fast, he's got a great touch on the ball, and he plays an 8 and has experience playing a 6.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds exactly like a Jurgen Klopp 6 to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I'm all for it. And I think that we would be like, what an incredible position that we could be in if it was Endo, Kefren Turam, Ryan Gravenberch, and/or Alexei McAllister on our left as a 8/10, and Soboslai and Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones. I mean, I guess it would be McAllister, Curtis Jones, and Ryan Gravenberch all vying for the left side. But
Yeah.
Jones can play both left and right.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them could. So could McAllister.
Yeah.
Just the flexibility in it sounds incredible. But I don't know if Klopp feels like there's going to be enough game time for all that. For all of that personnel.
Well, I mean, they're changing the Champions League format, right? Which is adding a handful of games next year. So.
Jesus.
Yep. Could be.
Wild. Yeah, we'll see. Who knows? But I would love to have him. I think he's a really great player, and I think that he would work well for our team.
Yeah.
I should watch more of him.
Yeah.
Will it be interesting to see if Nice, who's owned partially by Jim Ratcliffe, sell to Liverpool now that he's a 25% shareholder of Manchester United? Or will business prevail?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see. Anything you want to say to sign off? It looks like we're going to be off. We'll be back in a couple of days, and then 11 days off.
Yeah. There is one more thing I think we should touch on, and that is the world of football lost one of the greats today in Franz Beckenbauer. Yeah. You know, 74 World Cup champion, European Cup winner, captain of the 74 team. Yep. You know, a legend of the German game in European football. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of getting to that time. You know what I mean? Pele was like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Johan Cruyff was a couple years before that. It's like kind of.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of big names that. I mean, Maradona.
Yeah. Yeah.
A year ago. But yeah, I mean, I can't say that I've had the privilege of watching much besides just some highlight tapes from YouTube. But I mean, I definitely know of him. I know of the feats, and I know that he was always on the World 11 on FIFA.
And FIFA,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. So to Beckenbauer. Yeah. All right, guys. I think that's all we have from American LFC this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Leave a comment below. Are you excited if we sign Kefren Turam, or would you prefer us to get a left-sided center back like Ignacio? Or do you want us to get French forward who doesn't play defense named Kylian Mbappe? Let us know in the comments below. All right, signing off from here. I'm Nate. We'll talk to you soon.